The galaxy had a rule it never questioned. Power belonged to the ancient species, to those with hardened bodies, long lifespans, and bloodlines forged in war. Humans did not fit that rule. They arrived late to the stars, fragile, short-lived, and painfully emotional. Their ships were functional but unremarkable. Their weapons lacked elegance. Their bodies broke easily. And yet, everywhere humans went, things changed. Not through conquest, not through fear, but through something the galaxy had long forgotten how to recognize: choice. The great empires cataloged humanity carefully. Class, emerging species, threat level, minimal. Strategic value, auxiliary. Humans were assigned roles accordingly. Engineers, technicians, mediators, medics, never warriors, never rulers, never saviors. The Dominion of Val'Keth was the strongest force the galaxy had ever known. At its center stood the Empress. She was not born into power. She carved it from the bones of her enemies. Her name ended wars. Her fleets erased civilizations. Her presence alone shattered morale. The galaxy called her the living cataclysm. They believed her invincible. Until the day she fell. The battle on Khar'Vel was meant to be her final victory, a demonstration of dominance over the newly arrived humans. Instead, it became a graveyard, for ships, for soldiers, for certainty. When the smoke cleared, the galaxy believed the Empress was dead, and humanity believed the war was over. Both were wrong, because buried beneath the wreckage of a shattered battlefield lay the most powerful warrior the galaxy had ever known, bleeding, broken and moments away from death, and walking toward her, without fear, without hatred, without understanding who she truly was a human. Jonah Hale moved through the ruins of Khar'Vel with the practiced caution of someone who had learned, too late, that silence could kill. The battle had ended hours ago, but the moon still felt alive. Fires burned without oxygen, fed by ruptured power cores. Wrecked alien walkers twitched as their systems died in slow agony. The ground itself hummed, saturated with residual energy from weapons humanity had never been meant to witness. Jonah adjusted the strap of his medical pack and checked his scanner again. One weak signal. Alien, still alive. Damn it, he muttered. Protocol said wait for security. Protocol said unknown species meant unknown danger. Protocol said do not approach alone. Jonah ignored protocol. He always did. He followed the signal beneath a collapsed obsidian pillar, its surface etched with alien glyphs cracked clean through by orbital fire. That was when he saw her. She was half buried in debris, massive armor fractured like shattered glass. Whatever alloy it had been forged from, it had failed spectacularly, something Jonah had been told was impossible. Her blood seeped into the dust, glowing faintly as it spread. Not red, something deeper, darker, alive, Jonah swallowed. He had treated aliens before. Civilians, prisoners, even enemy soldiers. None of them felt like this. The air around her seemed heavier, charged, like the space before a storm broke. He knelt beside her slowly, making sure his movements were visible, deliberate. "Hey," he said quietly, not knowing if she could even understand him. "I'm here to help." Her chest rose, barely. Jonah scanned her injuries. Multiple internal fractures, collapsed lung equivalents, severe neural trauma. She should have been dead, and yet her heart still beat, strong, defiant. As he worked, he noticed the markings on her armor, symbols carved deep, not decorative but functional. Each line reinforced the metal. Each pattern told a story of battles survived. This wasn't a soldier. This was something else. Jonah hesitated. Then he pushed the thought aside. Pain was pain. Wounds were wounds. Life was life. He administered a pain suppressant, adjusting the dosage blindly. Human medicine wasn't meant for bodies like hers, but doing nothing meant watching her die. Her eyes opened. They were not the eyes of prey. They were ancient, focused. Watching him the way a predator watched a flame, curious, calculating, restrained. Her hand twitched. Instinct screamed at Jonah to back away. He didn't. "Easy," he murmured. "You're safe. I've got you." Safe. The word hit her harder than the shrapnel ever had. She had conquered worlds, broken warlords, executed traitors with her own hands. No one had ever promised her safety. She studied him, the way he trembled just slightly, the way his hands remained steady despite it, the way his eyes held concern instead of fear. "Human," she rasped, her voice rough, unused. Jonah smiled faintly. "Yeah, name's Jonah. I'm a medic." She searched his face, for lies, for manipulation, for weakness. She found none. As Jonah stabilized her breathing, distant thunder rolled across the horizon, ships moving, fleets repositioning. The war was not as over as everyone believed. And lying in the dust of a dead battlefield, the most powerful warrior in the galaxy made a choice she had never made before. She let herself be saved. Time lost its meaning on. The sky never darkened properly, only shifted from burning orange to bruised purple as distant stars flickered through the haze of war debris. Jonah worked in that half-light, guided by instinct, training, and stubborn refusal to give up. The alien woman, no, the warrior, was still alive. Barely. Every scan contradicted itself. Every reading pushed beyond known biological limits. Her heart rate would spike into lethal ranges, then stabilize on its own. Jonah had never seen a body fight so hard to remain alive. He reinforced her wounds with adaptive sealant, braced shattered armor plates to function as temporary skeletal support, and rerouted damaged neural clusters using his medkit's emergency interface, something it had never been designed to do. And through it all, she watched him, silent, unblinking. At first, Jonah thought it was shock. Then he realized she was studying him. "You don't have to stay awake," he said gently. "If you rest, your body can." "I cannot," she interrupted. Her voice was steadier now. "I must know why you are here." Jonah shrugged slightly, keeping his hand steady. "Same reason as everyone else. Someone got hurt. Someone needed help." She considered that. The concept did not fit into her understanding of the universe. Across her long life, help was currency, mercy was weakness, aid was always traded for power. "What will you demand in return?" she asked. Jonah frowned. "Demand?" "Yes, for saving me." He looked up then, really looked at her. Her eyes glowed faintly, power restrained but unmistakable. Even wounded, even broken, she radiated control. The battlefield seemed to bend around her presence. "I don't want anything," he said. She searched his face again, found nothing. That disturbed her more than pain ever could. As minutes passed, Jonah noticed changes. Her breathing deepened. Muscle spasms slowed. The bleeding, impossibly, began to stop. Her body was adapting, learning. He realized with a chill that she wasn't just surviving his treatment, she was integrating it. "You're incredible," he murmured without thinking. That earned a faint reaction, something like surprise. "My kind was not made to be incredible," she said. "We were made to conquer." Jonah shook his head. "Those aren't the same thing." She did not argue. Instead, she asked something else. "Human Jonah, do your people know you are here?" "No," he admitted. "Comms are down." "If they did, would they come for you?" Jonah paused. He thought of Earth, of med tents under fire, of humans running toward danger because someone else couldn't. "Yeah," he said softly, "they would." She closed her eyes briefly. That, too, was a kind of power. A distant vibration rolled across the ground. Jonah felt it through his knees. Engines, big ones, she felt it too. Her eyes snapped open, glowing brighter now, not with fear, but recognition. "They are returning," she said. "Who?" "My dominion," Jonah swallowed. "Are they friendly?" She laughed once. A short, humorless sound. "No." She tried to rise. Her body responded instantly, too instantly. The ground cracked beneath her hand as she pushed up, energy flaring uncontrollably. Jonah grabbed her arm without thinking. "Don't. You'll tear everything I just fixed." She froze. No one had ever touched her to stop her before. Slowly, she looked down at his hand on her arm. He realized what he'd done and pulled back, heart hammering. "Sorry," he said quickly. You are not afraid," she observed. Jonah exhaled. I'm just not letting it decide things." Silence stretched between them. Above, the sky brightened as silhouettes broke through the clouds, angular warships bearing the sigil of the Dominion. Search patterns fanned out. "They will find us," Jonah said. "Yes," she agreed. "And when they do," she turned her gaze back to him. For the first time, something new flickered behind her eyes, respect. "They will kneel," she said. Jonah stared at her. Then very quietly, he asked the question that changed everything. "Who are you?" She held his gaze as the warships descended. "I am Xyra Val'Keth," she said, "and I do not fall." The sky over Khar'Vel cracked open with fire. Dominion warships descended in perfect formation, their hulls cutting through the atmosphere like executioners' blades. Engines roared loud enough to shake the moon's fractured crust, sending waves of dust rolling across the battlefield. Jonah's scanner went wild. Multiple contacts, heavy weapons charging, target locks forming. He felt very small. Xyra Val'Keth did not. She rose to her full height, armor fragments falling away like shed skin. The air around her vibrated as suppressed energy began to bleed free, warping light itself. The ground beneath her feet blackened. "Stay behind me," she said. Jonah blinked. "Behind!" The first strike hit. A plasma bolt the size of a dropship slammed into Xyra's position, engulfing her in blinding white light. Jonah screamed her name. Then the light collapsed inward. Xyra stood untouched, one arm raised, energy rippling across an invisible barrier that hummed with ancient power. The barrier shattered outward in a shockwave that knocked Dominion soldiers off their feet. The battlefield went silent. From the lead warship, a command channel opened, projected in towering holographic form. A high executor appeared, armored in crimson and gold. "Empress," the alien intoned, voice trembling. "You live?" "I do," Xyra replied calmly. The executor's gaze shifted to Jonah, confusion, then outrage. "A human," he spat. "You stand beside a human." Jonah wanted to disappear. Xyra stepped forward, placing herself fully between Jonah and the Dominion forces. "This human," she said, voice echoing across the battlefield, "saved my life." Murmurs rippled through the ranks. "Impossible, unacceptable, unthinkable." "He is beneath you," the executor snarled. "Let us cleanse him, let us finish this disgrace." Xyra's eyes burned. "You will not touch him." The executor hesitated. Then, foolishly, he gave the order, weapons charged. Jonah felt time slow. He saw soldiers raise rifles, saw energy coils ignite, saw death coming. Xyra moved, not fast, instantly. She vanished, then reappeared in the heart of the Dominion formation. Her fist struck the ground, releasing a gravitational shock that crushed armored troops into the dust like insects. She tore through the ranks with terrifying precision. Blades of condensed energy formed from her hands. Armor dissolved at her touch. War machines folded like paper. Jonah watched in stunned silence. This was not battle. This was judgment. Within seconds, the battlefield belonged to her again. The executor tried to flee. Xyra appeared before him, one hand closing around his throat, lifting him effortlessly into the air. "You forgot something," she said quietly. He choked. What, my Empress? I choose who is worthy." She looked back at Jonah. And then she released the executor alive. "Leave," she commanded, "and tell the galaxy what happened here." The Dominion fleet withdrew in chaos. Silence fell once more. Xyra turned to Jonah. For the first time since he'd met her, she lowered her guard completely. "You stood your ground," she said. "You did not run," Jonah swallowed. "I figured if I was going to die, I might as well stay with my patient." Something like a smile touched her lips. Then, in a gesture that would shake the galaxy to its core, Xyra Val'Keth, Empress of the Dominion, conqueror of worlds, knelt. She placed her fist to the ground before Jonah Hale. "I owe you my life," she said, "and by ancient law that debt is eternal." Jonah's knees nearly gave out. History had just changed. The silence after the Dominion fleet's retreat felt unreal. The battlefield of Khar'Vel, once a furnace of violence, now lay still beneath a sky slowly clearing of ash and fire. Wreckage smoldered in the distance, and the ground, scarred by power beyond human understanding, bore the imprint of Xyra Val'Keth's judgment. Jonah stood frozen, unsure if he should speak or kneel or run. He did none of those things. Xyra rose from her kneel and regarded him with something entirely new in her expression. Not command, not superiority, but acknowledgement. "You treated me as an equal," she said. "That is a rare thing in this galaxy." Jonah rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly very aware of how small and human he was. "I treated you like a patient." That made her pause. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was a quiet sound, almost disbelieving. "A healer," she said, "even now." Rescue ships arrived hours later. Human and alien alike approached the battlefield cautiously, weapons lowered but ready. When they saw Xyra standing beside Jonah unrestrained, unopposed, panic nearly broke out, until she raised a hand. "I am under no threat," she announced across all channels. "Nor is this human." No one argued. Back aboard her flagship, Xyra ordered immediate medical and logistical aid for the wounded, all wounded. Human, alien, enemy, ally. It was the first time in recorded Dominion history that mercy was not conditional. Word spread faster than fleets could travel. The Empress had lived, a human had saved her, and instead of vengeance, she had chosen restraint. The Galactic councils trembled. Old treaties were rewritten overnight. Predatory empires recalculated their strategies. Humanity's classification was quietly, urgently updated. Threat level, unknown. Influence potential, extreme. Jonah was summoned before councils he had never heard of, offered titles he did not want, honors he did not understand. He declined them all. "I'm a medic," he said simply. "I fix people." Xyra watched those exchanges with keen interest. "You refuse power," she said later as they stood overlooking the stars from her flagship's observation deck. Jonah shrugged. "Power changes things?" "Yes," she agreed. "It does." She turned toward him. "That is why you are dangerous." Her final decree before leaving Khar'Vel echoed across the galaxy. Humanity was placed under imperial protection. Any aggression toward human worlds would be treated as aggression toward the Dominion itself. The reaction was immediate. Wars ended. Raids ceased. Borders stabilized, all because a human medic chose compassion over caution. Jonah was returned to human space with an escort fit for royalty. Before he boarded his transport, Xyra stopped him. "You may call on me," she said. "At any time, for any reason." Jonah smiled faintly. "I hope I won't have to." "So do I," she replied, but the galaxy knew better. Life returned to normal. At least that was what the reports said. Trade lanes reopened. Diplomatic envoys exchanged cautious smiles. The galaxy resumed its careful balancing act between fear and ambition. Jonah Hale returned to what he had always done. He treated burns from reactor accidents, set bones shattered in cargo mishaps, calmed frightened civilians who had seen too much too soon. No statues were built in his name, no planets renamed, no songs sung in his honor. That was exactly how he wanted it, but the galaxy remembered. Every time a Dominion warship passed peacefully through human space, captains whispered the story. Every time an alien commander hesitated before targeting a Terran vessel, they remembered the battlefield of Khar'Vel. They remembered that the Empress lived because a human had chosen mercy. Jonah sometimes received messages, encrypted, formal, unmistakably royal, short updates, strategic inquiries disguised as polite conversation, occasional questions about human medical techniques. He answered them when he could, and sometimes when the stars were quiet, he wondered, what would have happened if he had walked away? The answer always came unbidden. The galaxy would have burned. On a distant world, Xyra Val'Keth stood before her assembled court. Once she would have demanded obedience through fear. Now she ruled through certainty. "The humans are not weak," she told them. "They are restrained." No one argued, because every empire now understood the truth. Humans did not conquer because they did not need to. They did not dominate because they chose not to. But when pushed, when threatened, when someone they cared for was placed in danger, they changed the rules. And far from the thrones and war rooms, a human medic finished his shift, cleaned his hands, and walked home beneath an unremarkable sky, unaware that the galaxy slept easier because of him. History often remembers wars by the names of generals, by fleets, by weapons, by the number of worlds reduced to ash. But sometimes history turns on something far smaller. A single decision, a single moment, a single human choosing compassion when violence would have been easier. The galaxy learned that day that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it kneels beside the wounded. Sometimes it holds a trembling hand steady. Sometimes it refuses to let fear make the choice. The most powerful warrior in the galaxy was not defeated by an army. She was saved by a human. And in doing so, the universe was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humanity's greatest weapon is not its technology, not its numbers, not even its ability to wage war. It is the choice to protect life, even the life of an enemy. That is why empires hesitate now, why conquerors pause, why the stars whisper warnings to those who would test humanity's resolve. Because when a species capable of mercy is pushed too far, it does not break. It rises. And somewhere in a quiet corner of human space, a medic prepares for another shift, unaware that the galaxy still remembers the day he changed everything. Never underestimate humans. They may save you, or they may decide you are not worth saving.